escalate matters to an uncontrollable level also appealed to the Labour leaders to step down action to make way for discussion as the ministry is wading into the matter. Ngige says he has it on good authority following a complaint by the Minister of Power that workers have threatened to trigger a nationwide blackout by interfering or switching off the national grid. Similarly, the federal government says it is confident that a week-long fruitful consultation with all the critical stakeholders will end the debilitating strike by the Judicial Staff Union of Nigeria, JUSUN, and the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria when conciliation resumes Thursday. Meanwhile, the Kaduna State government has announced the dismissal of nurses below grade level 14 and any academic staff of a state-owned university for their involvement in what it describes as unlawful strike by NLC. NTA correspondent report that Kaduna residents are calling on the parties to sheath their sword in the interest of the ordinary citizens.
The issue is simple. You sack 7,700, reinstate them. You are planning to sack 11,000. Don't do that.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has made a case for highly concessional credit facilities, grants as well as technical assistance in support of the ongoing institutional reforms and fiscal measures in Nigeria towards helping the country build back better and greener. Addressing Africa Financial Summit on financing African economies, the president said Nigeria and other African countries are presently facing liquidity constraints that are not only preventing effective response to the COVID-19 crisis, but also hindering any progress towards recovery. The summit was held behind closed doors. And still there, President Muhammadu Buhari says if Nigeria is to achieve accelerated and sustained economic growth, public-private partnership must play a key role as an alternative source of financing infrastructural developments and focusing on innovative ways of delivering services. The president, while addressing another forum on African private sector reforms and infrastructure financing in Paris, France said Nigeria can no longer rely on budgetary allocations in funding development, operations and maintenance of infrastructural facilities. He explained that the federal government intends to leverage on public-private partnership to bolster job creations as well as anti-corruption drive. President Buhari enumerated value for money analysis, public interest assessments, transparency, risk allocation, and thorough evaluation of project proponents are some of the principles of a public-private partnership that can ensure accelerated infrastructure delivery. He said even the process leading to the PPP contract has inbuilt restraint against corrupt practices as well as preserving public assets. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the Senate requesting the approval of the implementation of a new external borrowing of 2.3 trillion naira in the 2021 Appropriation Act. The executive communication explains that the fund is to part finance the 2021 budget deficit of 5.6 trillion naira.
The sum of USD $6.183 billion from a combination of sources, normally multilateral and bilateral lenders, as well as from the international capital market, ICM, through the issuance of Eurobonds.
An Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, has confirmed that the federal government of Nigeria has received more than £4.2 million of the loot associated with the family members of former Delta State Governor James Ibori. This was made known in a statement by Umar Jibrilu Gwando, Special Assistant on Media and Public Relations Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice. According to the statement, the amount has been credited into the designated federal government account with the Naira equivalent value of the amount as at 10th May 2021. Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami signed Memorandum of Understanding for the repatriation of Ibori loot on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria. The development, according to Malami, was in recognition of the reputation of Nigeria through records of management of recovered stolen Nigerian funds for the execution of public-oriented projects. Now, speed is a major challenge along the highways, and Nigeria joins the rest of the world in the celebration of a Global Road Safety Week. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo this Tuesday flagged off the 30 kilometers per hour in urban areas campaign. The global campaign is to promote the need for people to be more safety conscious in reducing their speed on the highways.
I think that making road safety a public health issue is one of those very creative ways of ensuring that we're all able to synergize, that the Ministry of Health, for example, is brought into the picture.
Promoting the need for in urban areas to cut down the speed maximum of 30 kilometers per hour, and we believe we'll be able to achieve this with the cooperation of all the road users. Part of it is that the core we work with the Federal Ministry of Works and now seeing to ensure that appropriate road signs are installed in the urban areas.
And that was the morning news on Good Morning Nigeria. The program will continue in just a moment with Kingsley and Kirian after this break. Stay with us.
Recently, both the President and Vice President demonstrated leadership by being among the first Nigerians to have the AstraZeneca vaccine administered to them on live TV for all in the country to see. Subsequently, many federal ministers, political leaders, and members of the Presidential COVID-19 Task Force have publicly taken the vaccine to follow in the footsteps of President Buhari and Vice President Osinbajo. To obtain it yourself, please go to the NPHCDA website. There is a link to click on in order to register and schedule your vaccination. In the meantime, please continue to wear face masks, wash your hands frequently, use hand sanitizer, and observe social distancing. This message was brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Here today, gone tomorrow. 'Cause you volatile like the water, and you promise what you don't know. Sometimes it's right and then it's so wrong. Them go do like say them why. We promise you the world. Brother, all now worship. Upon all of the open eye. I see no feel water, like king of the letter.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
It's the dawn of a new era on NTA's flagship program, the Sports Parliament, revitalized with lots of varieties, including feedback responses from viewers. Sports Parliament, the weekly sports show that exposes all the intrigues in the Nigerian sports sector and projects an agenda on the way forward for Nigerian sports. On NTA every Thursday at 10:30 p.m., running for 1 whole hour, discussing sports. The parliamentarians are more committed than ever to enlighten the viewers as the Sports Parliament takes it to a whole new level on the floor of the House. Keep a date with the Sports Parliament as motions are moved every Thursday on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, with his gavel to harmonize sports resolutions. The House have it.
You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. Now, the central bank governor has faulted claims that the agri-sector interventions are skewed in favor of a certain section of the country. Plus, experts laud Nigeria's quest to join the community of technology-driven nations towards growing the country's digital economy. Our correspondent, Comfort Amodu, has details of the stories.
The Nigerian government recently announced a partnership with tech giant Microsoft to enhance the nation's economy, broaden investment and create additional jobs, particularly for 5 million people in Nigeria. This initiative, an economist says, will help in economic recovery strategy and quicken the pace of digital revolution through investment in digital infrastructure.
The areas of investment, as far as I'm concerned, is in human capital development, and that's one thing, tech hubs come with. It comes with that enabling environment for people to express whatever they have in their ability to, use their brain to work, develop things that you can actually sell.
In another development, Governor Central Bank of Nigeria Godwin Emefiele has faulted claims in certain quarters, suggesting that the bank's targeted interventions in the agricultural sector are in favor of a certain section of the country, describing criticisms against the bank's effort at boosting agriculture in Nigeria as unfair. He disclosed that more than 3 billion naira had been disbursed to companies operating in the southern part of Nigeria. The governor made the clarification in Ado-Ekiti, Ekiti State, while unveiling the 2020 wet season harvest aggregation and flag-off of the 2021 wet season input distribution in the southwest geopolitical zone under the CBN Reef and Anchor Burrows program. Meanwhile, African Export-Import Bank has closed a $1.3 billion dual tenor bond issuance, the bank's largest ever transaction in the international debt capital markets. And here are the closing figures of trades from the capital market. With business news, Comfort Amodu.
Thank you, Comfort, for that package. Next is newspaper review.
Paya Toyobe, newspaper reviewer, is with us in the studios. Paya, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning.
You're welcome.
Good morning, Nigeria. Yeah. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, I have here the Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust newspaper, both perhaps below the nameplate. Plane conveying Emir of Kano, others, makes emergency landing. That's on page 44. Judge kidnapped inside Katsina court. The story is on page 6. 2 soldiers killed as bandits abduct expatriates in Niger. That's on page 6. Kaduna shutdown, release story. Federal government intervenes as El-Rufai labels stick to their guns. 4 riders to that. Governor declares NLC president wanted. Sacks nurses. Come and arrest me, Wabadez. He has no powers to declare anyone wanted. Falana. Resolve impasse. Governors, PDP, ACF. All right, the photo story there is that of the alleged thugs hired to disrupt the procession yesterday in Kaduna. Below that, we have Boko Haram exploiting pandemic to push back into Nigeria, says Buhari. That's on page 44. Alleged 10 billion naira fraud. EFCC invites PDP officials. That's on page 45. 6-year-old raped to death in Kaduna. On page 30. Then presence of strange helicopter raises concerns in Niger villages. That'll be all, President.
Okay, well, let's take a look also at the Nation newspaper. Above the nameplate, France pledges full support for insecurity battle. Buhari, restructure our debt. That's the rider to that headline. Citizens worry over Buni's absence from Yobe. Buni is governor of Yobe and is also the acting chair of the All Progressives Congress. Citizens worry over Buni's absence from Yobe. The commissioner is saying it's not true. That's on page 29. President seeks lawmakers nod to take $6.18 billion loan. That's page 4. Bandits kill 3 soldiers in Niger, abduct Chinese. And below the nameplate, federal government suspends passport application. I think that should be passport issuance. Details on page 6. Reps urge FCTA, that's Federal Capital Territory Administration, to suspend task forces. That's page 29. El-Rufai fires nurses on solidarity strike, declares labor leaders wanted. And you can see the photographs there of some reported armed thugs on the rampage, allegedly, of course, attacking NLC protesters at the Depa roundabout on Ahmadu Bello Way. And while petrol subsidy will be removed by minister. Labour warns against plan. SCCI, that's Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we need innovative policy on petroleum. IG orders policemen to be ruthless with secession agitators. And special operation inaugurated. And it says Adamawa declares 3-day mourning for monarch, 25 cars for Nasarawa chiefs. Ayo.
Thank you, Kins. Well, let's start with the news coming from Paris, where President Muhammadu Buhari has sought the cooperation of France in the war against terror in Nigeria. In an article published in Le Point, the president says Boko Haram has taken advantage of COVID-19 to push back into Nigeria. He called for deepening of anti-terror cooperation to overcome the scourge, especially in the aftermath of the death of the president of Chad. He indicated that bonds with states in the Sahel region has been strengthened, especially in the area of anti-terror cooperation, intelligence sharing, as well as training against improvised explosives. He called for France, Great Britain, United States, and the European Union for further military and humanitarian assistance. Meanwhile, while the president is away, his letter seeking approval for external borrowing of $6.18 billion, equivalent of 2.3 trillion, was read on the floor of the National Assembly. The loans are part of the budget deficit in the 5.602 trillion in the 2021 Appropriation Act. The loans are sought for the purpose of from multilateral and bilateral lenders, as well as international capital market, through issuance of Euro bonds. The 2021 Appropriation Act, which has already been signed into law, has a combination of a tenor for this loan that been sought from time ranging from 5 to 30 years. The loans are meant for specific capital projects in the 2021 Appropriation Act, which is already law. They are priority projects in areas of power, transportation, agriculture, rural development, education, health, and defense. It may be recalled that in December 2020, Debt Management Office indicated that our public debt stood at 32.9 trillion naira, or $86.3 billion. With this indication, if this is approved and it says true, the dollar component of our debt will rise to about 92.48 billion, equivalent of 35.2 trillion naira. Meanwhile, coming to Kaduna, the 5-day warning strike called by the Nigerian Labour Congress entered its second day yesterday. Markets and other places were opened, quite unlike the first day where many of them were shut. Hoodlums attacked protesting labor processions, and Governor Nasir El-Rufai has declared Ayuba Waba wanted, saying he should report to the police he is to be tried for economic sabotage. Labour leader Waba has fired back, saying the governor lacks the power to declare him wanted. He assessed that strike is legal, protest is also legal. He says after 5 days warning strike, the action will be scaled up. Already, Joe Ajero of the Electricity Workers Union has threatened nationwide blackout if power is there to be restored in Kaduna. Also, NUPEN President William Akporea says that federal government should call the governor of Kaduna State to order. Otherwise, NUPEN will occasion a nationwide withdrawal of services. There have been appeals from the Governors Forum, the Progressive Governors Forum, as well as Northern Governors Forum. They are all calling for calm and restraint. They want progress to be achieved and not chaos. Therefore, Kaduna State government and Labour should return to negotiation table. They call for the de-escalation to enable both parties come to settlement. Some youths rallied to the Government House, Kaduna, yesterday, proclaiming their support for the actions of the Kaduna State government. Meanwhile, there's a fallout from the strike, which is very, very sad. A 2-day-old baby was in an incubator and was on oxygen support. Unfortunately, because of the strike, the nurses switched off the oxygen and discharged the mother of the baby from the incubator. The State Ministry of Health has been trying to trace out for baby and mother to find out if they are alive and to provide any support they can for the baby and the mother. Meanwhile, Governor Nasir El-Rufai has announced the sack of nurses and some lecturers who participated in the strike. And in Delta State, the Governor Ifeanyi Okowa has dissolved his cabinet, removing ending the tenure of all the commissioners, members of the State Executive Council. This time, this includes the Chief of Staff to the Governor as well as the Secretary to the State Government. He says the action is part of effort to restructure governance for better service delivery. Meanwhile, the loot of £4.2 million recovered from a former Delta State governor is said to have been arrived in Nigeria and accredited its naira equivalent to the covers of the federal government. The Delta State government, outgoing Commissioner of Information, Charles Anyagu, says that there is optimism that federal government will return the recovered fund to the state. Said talks are strong and ongoing. The amount returned is actually £4,241,017 pounds and 66, I think, pence.
Well, many interesting stories. The one on the Ibori loot, I recall that when the story first broke about the British government willing to return the money to Nigeria, the federal government saying that the money will go into its coffers. There was quite some argument as to whether the federal government is the rightful owner. If the former Commissioner of Information in Delta says negotiations are ongoing with the federal government, that is heartwarming, because clearly it is not the federal government's money that was looted. If the federal government had spent some resources, of course, in trying to get the loot back, that would be cost of recovery. But the money rightfully belongs to the people of Delta State.
Yeah.
Now, don't take the money directly to Delta. The federal government could then act as a trustee. Let Delta State government indicate particular projects to be funded, and then the federal government, of course, will now be the one releasing the funds. So that, I mean, as the argument has been made, the money is not reluted. I'm not saying that those who are in office will do that, but that I think is the proper thing to do. It's not that the money belongs to the federal government, belongs to Delta State.
In fact, there is no argument about where the money came from. If it's a Boris loot, then it's from Delta State, right? Go back to Delta State.
But there are some nuances. There are some nuances coming from there.
If federal government has spent some money in the course of retrieving the fund, of course they should be balanced. Delta State should be able to pay for it because the fund is there already. So they won't look for the money elsewhere. It's already available. So it's just for them to have sit down and talk, and of course decide on what to do next.
I was talking about nuances surrounding the release of those funds. There were some agreements signed, and specifically Nigeria had to commit to and indicate projects for which these funds will be committed. The federal government has gone out of its way to announce these federal projects that the funds will be committed to before this development came up. And while the case was in court in the United Kingdom, a representative of Delta State had gone to testify in court, allegedly, that no funds were missing from their state. So these are some of the nuances that people are raising.
I'm sorry to jump in. I remember that point was made.
Yes.
Now, if there was such a testimony that no Delta funds were missing, fine. The judgment indicates that, look, monies were stolen. James Ibore, at the material time that the offenses were committed, was not an agent or officer of the federal government.
Yes.
He was an agent and an officer of Delta State. And the projects, if you recall, the projects that were identified were Lagos-Ibadan Expressway and Kano, Kaduna, and some other projects, not anywhere in Delta, not anywhere in the South-South. So the argument has always been, why are you going to use Delta recovered assets to fund projects not in the Delta State, not in the South-South? And I think that is just plain common sense, if not an equitable call to say, look, yes, the federal government needed to make that argument to be able to retrieve the funds. Perhaps it was an oversight in the course of the negotiations to say, okay, we're going to use these funds for projects in the Niger Delta, or specifically
in Delta State.
Delta State is not the most developed state in the Federation. No. Let's face it. So and they have a number of issues to deal with in terms of infrastructure and so on and so forth.
Well, let's leave that to Delta State government and federal government to see how they will come up.
The other one on the Kaduna action being undertaken by NLC, where we are seeing the consequences of the 5-day warning strike. The story you just talked about, nurses going on strike and unplugging oxygen supply to a baby in an incubator. In an incubator. Well, they have said that they are going after those nurses, and of course, I'm sure they will draft charges, either attempted murder or murder, depends on what happens ultimately. These are the kind of consequences you face. But the bigger question, and I think I raised this yesterday, the bigger question is, are we going to continue this situation where state governments, local governments, or even the federal government is spending a huge chunk of its resources on emoluments for civil and public servants? When the larger majority, NLC, when they go on strike, they say that they are striking for the interest of not just their workers, but also of the larger majority of citizens, citizens and their welfare and their well-being. How are we going to continue with this kind of situation? Because when people are working, they are entitled to pension, and then you keep seeing the pension obligations, the salary obligations, and we are unable to face critical infrastructure.
The other story Kirian read is the gunmen have invaded a Sharia court in Bauri Zaka village and abducted the judge. It was a Sharia court judge, Alhaji Hussein Ismaila. He was in the courtroom when they came firing guns in the air and
abducted.
But people are still puzzled what the Sharia court judge was doing in court, especially that Johnson has been on strike and most of the courts.
Exactly.
Well, the fact remains that
but the judge is not on strike.
The judge is not on strike.
Exactly.
The other thing was that there is a danger in that area, and the court had actually been relocated to Safana.
All right, Bayo, let's end it there. Thank you indeed for analysis. Let's see you again tomorrow for more on newspaper review. Well, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, of course, we'll be dealing with the topic for today, vandalism of rail lines in Nigeria. Stay with us.
At the first sign of pain, you need a solution that you can trust to provide effective relief and is gentle on the stomach. Try Panadol Caplets for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Caplets. This has been Medifact for Panadol.
Helen Paul!
Hello, madam. Would you like to join us on this mission?
Yes, but how?
Just one question for you. How do you keep your toilet clean?
I use regular detergent and bleach for washing and removing yellow stains. I have been using it for years.
Oh, madam, the regular detergents and bleach are used for washing clothes. To disinfect your toilet properly, you need Harpic 10X. It is specially made for germs and stains remover. Harpic sticker formula settles on stains and gives 10 times better cleaning compared to regular detergent and bleach.
Wow! Now I'm convinced, Helen Paul.
Really?
Yeah!
Now that she's part of the mission, the next house is yours.
My name is Dr. Faisal Shuaib. I am the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Earlier today, I took my first shot of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Despite all of the delays, all of the doubts, here we are, Nigerians can finally access the vaccines. I hope that Nigerians will come out and get these vaccines because these vaccines are safe, they're effective, and they truly work. Over the course of the next few weeks, we have to continue wearing face masks. We have to do social distancing. But I know eventually once we're able to get herd immunity, then we'll be able to stop all of these non-pharmaceutical interventions. To get the vaccination, you should go to the MPHCDA website. There's a link on there that you click and you can register and schedule exactly where you want to get your vaccine.
You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. And to kickstart our conversation, which is on the vandalism of rail tracks in some parts of the country, let's listen to this background report put together by our correspondent, Ekene Undulwe.
No doubt, rail transportation remains the cheapest and safest mode of transportation all over the world. However, this mode of transportation was comatose in Nigeria for many decades. Recent rehabilitation of rail lines and introduction of new trains was a huge relief for many travelers in Nigeria, resulting to huge patronage from commuters. This celebrated improvement in rail transportation is now being threatened by activities of vandals. From the Warri-Itakpe rail line, Port Harcourt to Enugu, Nasarawa-Makurdi, Lafia and Kaduna to Zaria, cases of vandalization abound, with bolts and nuts being removed, thereby endangering the lives of commuters. The loose components are said to be transported and sold in the black markets. Information from the Nigerian Railway Corporation suggests that recently more than 160 persons have been arrested in connection with railway vandalism. The poser is, most of these rail tracks have been in existence for decades without being vandalized. Now, why the sudden proliferation of rail tracks vandalism? How can the nation put an end to this diabolical trend? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be giving their perspectives in a moment.
And joining us in the studio here in Abuja, we have the Commandant, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps Railway Command, in the person of Mr. Abbas Bapa. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And from our Kaduna studio, we have a security expert, Mr. Muhammad Ali. Mr. Ali, thank you indeed for joining us this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Yes, and we are hoping to have the Managing Director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation to join us much later in the course of the program. For now, let's get started with the conversation. Quickly.
All right, gentlemen, just before we get into the numbers, that's from the civil defense, as the NSCDC is more commonly referred to say, look, how many incidents have occurred and so on and so forth. But perhaps we should begin with Muhammad Ali, who, of course, was in service in the Department of State Services for many years before he retired, and also then was a member of the Kaduna State House of Assembly. Can we just understand the psychology behind what we find as a wanton destruction of public assets? While we were starting today's program, my colleague and I were bantering, and we recalled that, well, until the 1970s, Nigeria had no expressways and no overhead bridges. But we saw gradually from the late 1980s, and more particularly in the 90s, vandals were just ripping off the aluminum guardrails on the bridges in Lagos and then on the highways. There were reports that these were being smelted into spoons, other forms of cutlery and jewelry. And then we also find, criminal elements going after high-tension cable wires at the risk of their lives, tearing down these cables and then cutting them away. Now, it appears that the latest is rail tracks. We have also seen in urban areas, say in Abuja, where manhole covers, iron manhole covers, have been removed and just taken away. What informs this in your opinion as a security analyst? Why are people behaving this way?
Thank you, Mr. Kingsley. The problem of vandalization, not only on to the rail tracks, but to aluminum covers on bridges and other public utilities, as you rightly mentioned, is something that is created by the problem of the massive unemployment of our youths in the country today. Because 30 years ago, people get employed even while they are doing the national service. Some of them get offer of appointment even before the completion of their national service. But here we are today, 5 years down the line after the national service, people hardly get a job. This logjam created by the lack of employment is part of the reasons that has created the problems we are going through. And this essentially is a problem of lack of social and economic mobility for these youths, most of whom have gone through the university, or some even that have not gone through school, but at least they have a life to live. So what are we doing to creatively engage them in some sort of empowerment training programs so that they can be useful to themselves? But much as government leaves them like that, certainly an idle mind is a devil's workshop. So we are, such things are to be expected. This is, I think, one of the reasons that we are seeing the proliferation of this vandalization, be it electrical cables, the rail tracks, you name it. And for the Nigerian railway system, as it were, I think the railway system covers approximately about 3,528 kilometers. It's quite a large, a big track that needs to be monitored time and again. And the issue of the criticality and vulnerability of the rail track needs to be taken into consideration by the Nigerian Railway Corporation with a view to making proper arrangements to ensure that they have adequate manpower that will man the tracks, especially the tracks that run through some of our forests. This is where some of these vandals find it easy to go, even in the daytime, and lose the nodes and the bolts in order to go and sell. But added to that, there is one other problem. Our weak criminal justice system is adding to all these problems, because how many times most of these vandals have been arrested time and again? How many times some of them are sent to jail? You hardly can say, because the moment they are taken to court, Naira exchanges hands and they go scot-free. And much as people are committing offenses or crimes and they get away with it, certainly that is to be expected. Because as I normally say, crime is to be expected in every human society, since humans are never perfect. But the failure of justice in any human society is more dangerous to society than crime itself. So we need to sit up and ensure that the right things are done at the right time. Then we also have to look at the issue of corruption. Until we are able to end or fight corruption seriously to a standstill, issues like this will continue to thrive. This is my take, Mr. Kingsley.
Mr. Mohamed Ali, let's remain with you. I understand the perspective of unemployment, which you started with. But about 2 days ago, when some 5 men, were caught with a trailer load of rail track parts, those men, they didn't appear as unemployed. And for them to have the capacity to have a big truck like that loaded, one begins to think towards patriotism. Where is the patriotic zeal in Nigerians? And again, if you're not a professional, you will not be able to, take away those items if you're not a professional. And you have to have the implements, the tools to be able to do that. So there is this perspective that many Nigerians are not patriotic, that we believe in, making money as fast as possible. So do you think that we have enough understanding of what public utilities are and why we should not tamper with them? Because after all said and done, if you tamper with rail tracks and eventually if a train derails, your relation might be in that train and you could get killed. So what's your thinking?
The issue of patriotism is something that truly we must look at, because quite a number of us are very unpatriotic because we only think of ourselves and nobody else. We must make it a point of duty to know that it is our business, it is our responsibility to be one another's keeper. And being one another's keeper means we must do the best we can to maintain and protect any public utility with diligence, just as we will do ours. Until we are able to do some of these things, we'll continue to suffer and face the problems we are facing. And again, this goes back to the school system. We need to put back the issue, the teaching of history, back into the secondary, in fact, back right from the primary school syllabus, because in the 60s, history is being taught in the primary school. But today, even in some of the secondary schools, history is not being taught. So until we are able to know who we are as a people, where we are coming from, and where we are going to, that is when people will begin to be patriotic, love for the motherland, regardless of where you are or who you are. If this is done, then people will begin to value public utility just as they will value their own. And those you said were professionals who were caught vandalizing the rail tracks with a truck and issues like that. You will be surprised to understand that even workers within the Nigerian Railway Corporation, some of them are syndicate managers with whom some of these crimes are being arranged and committed. So until we are able to do things and properly too, and this is where the issue of the weak criminal justice system comes in. Because if we have a very stringent justice system, even if it is the MD that is found wanting, let him be docked in the court and let him be tried. And where he is found wanting, let him pay the price. Tomorrow, nobody will do it, even if he's given paid to do it. But where people are allowed to go scot-free, even after committing travesty, certainly people will continue to do things the way they like, regardless of whoever is watching or regardless of the consequences to the larger society. On the 2nd of this month, a train carrying pipes to the AKK, the gas pipeline being constructed somewhere in Igabi local government here in Kaduna State. 4 coaches derailed just opposite Sultan Bello Mosque in Kaduna Central. What happened? Because some vagabonds have gone through the night to lose balls and nuts. Four coaches derailed. Luckily, I was at hand and I quickly called the divisional police officer in charge of Kao Divisional Police Command for him to send his men to come, because even with the load on the train, people were ready and preparing, whispering to themselves to organize and come maybe at night to vandalize the equipments the train is carrying for the ongoing gas pipeline project. So people have to be up and doing. People have to be conscious of who they are as Nigerians. We should individually and collectively know that we all have a duty to do the best we can to protect public properties just as we will do ours. If we imbibe this in ourselves, I think things will be better. In the 60s and 70s when we were growing up, things were not like this. But today everybody wants to be a rich man or a rich woman by hook or crook. And until we imbibe in ourselves, first, the fear of God, and to also know that it is not money that really matters. It is not money that makes a man. It is the morality in you that determines your being and final place in history, not the amount of money you gather, whether legally or illegally. So the end should always justify the means, not the means justifying, the means should justify the end, not the end justifying the means. If we put all this in perspective, I think we'll begin to correct some of these things. But I must stress, there must be punishment. Whenever wrongs are done, people should be punished, because punishment is meant to serve as a deterrence for me not to do what Mr. A has done. But where I commit an offense and because of Mr. A from above, I'm left to go free, then certainly there's nothing that stops Mr. B from committing even a more heinous offense or crime than what I did.
Mohammed Ali, thank you very much there for your comments, Kirian. And Mohammed, there's been a reference to the 60s and 70s, and we're discussing rail lines. I'm sure perhaps we'll remember, or those who also used it, when we were in elementary school, and I believe this also lasted well into the 70s and perhaps 80s, we used to have readers, we call them readers, for the study of English language. It was new Oxford English course. You had book 1, book up to book 6. I'm just recalling now, there was one chapter in one of the books, I'm not sure whether it was book 5 or book 6, John Saves the Train. There was a young man who was said always to be near the rail track where the train passes, and the train driver will wave at him and he will wave back. And then on one occasion, I think there was a problem with the rail tracks. And so John had to find a way of alerting the train driver to the danger that was ahead, so several kilometers ahead. So he removed his shirt so that while the train driver was coming, he now started waving the shirt. And the whole story about John Saves the Train, I think chapter 1, chapter 2 or so. So those who use the NOEC, that book 4, 5 or 6 will remember this particular story. I'm just getting a bit emotional about this thing because I'm remembering some of those stories in the readers. But on a more serious note, that tells you the hazards, the patriotism that my colleague Kyria referred to earlier. A young boy is seeking to save a train from disaster, and then Muhammad Ali telling us now that in Kaduna, a train conveying pipes derailed, and then bad guys were already ganged up to see what they could do to further vandalize the pipes being used for the Ajakuta-Kaduna Kano gas pipeline infrastructure. From the point of view of the civil defense, that's to say specific now to the Rail Command, are we seeing a growing problem with the vandalism of rail tracks? And if so, how big is this problem now, and how are we going to see what we'll do in future?
Thank you very much. Actually, this problem in the past, the experience was people used to take these items to produce hose, plows, and other things. It was very minimal. That is why it was not well known. But suddenly, you know, within the Railway Command came into existence in February 2020. So, but within this short period of its existence, our experience has shown that there is a very rapid rapid growth in this vandalization of rail tracks. And in the course of our investigations and our study of the problem, we've come to understand that this has a correlation with the sudden springing up of recycling plants for steel. And also, we got information that some of this scrap is also being exported. But we have not, we are still investigating that. You know, we believe that primarily the problem at present has to do with these recycling plants. These, we believe, are the drivers of this activity, because the incentive currently is primarily for financial benefit. And we believe that it is because these plants are absorbing this stolen scrap that is making people to actually go and do these things.
Okay, it's well understood that, yes. Of course, you now know the end users of the parts of the rail tracks that yes. people cut away. And of course, we have several kilometers of rail lines in this country. Yes. And again, some of them passing through some bush areas and what have you. Yes. And one wonders if Civil Defense Corps has even the capacity or well equipped to even man the several kilometers over these rail lines. Now that you know the end users, is there any effort being made by civil defense to investigate where or which recycling plant is involved in this? And are you also making an effort towards guarding all the several kilometers of rail lines in this country? Is it a possibility that civil defense can do that?
Yes, I first want to address the issue of whether we have the capacity to cover this extensive network. You see, the civil defense, by its setup, we have divisions in the 774 local governments of the Federation. So, and we have an extensive network of information gathering. We have the private guard companies, and we are working with other organizations like the hunters, the vigilante, the local vigilantes, and all that. So we have a very good network of intelligence gathering, you know, and we believe that is key to addressing this problem. You know, we definitely have manpower deficiencies at the moment, and there's an ongoing process already to recruit more staff. You know, but we believe for us to effectively do this job, we need to also employ technology. You know, we need aerial surveillance, and then to couple with this intelligence gathering, I think we can be able to seriously impact on the problem. But at the moment, despite the short period of time of existence of the Railway Command, we've been able to arrest over 50, we have been able to make over 50 major arrests. We have 20 cases that are already in Federal High Court. We decided to go to Federal High Court to use the Miscellaneous Offences Act in order to get maximum punishment. Just like the previous speaker has said, it is necessary to get the adequate punishment in order to serve as a deterrent to others. So in the Federal High Court, under vandalism, there are 3 charges, and each one of them carries a sentence of 21 years. If you tamper with any infrastructure, it's 21 years, tampering only. Damage to the infrastructure is another 21 years. Removal of that infrastructure is another 21 years. So we believe if we are able to get some of these convictions and we publicize them and add it to other means of creating awareness, that we are going to put a very big dent on the problem. And coming to the issue of these operators of these mills, we are closing in on them. You know, where our investigation, from our information gathering, we have already identified the locations. You know, but what is hindering our immediate action is because we have principal suspects. Most of the people we have arrested now are the people that are actually removing the lines, the people that are transporting the vandalized products to the mills, despite the fact that they are withholding information regarding where the products finally end up. We have already identified the middlemen, the people who actually pay cash.
Scrap dealers.
Yes, they go between the recyclers and the
vandals.
And the vandals. So these people are very, very crafty. They know that they are doing something that is illegal. So they employ means to try and make sure that it is difficult to get them. Like, for instance, they pay cash. They pay cash to the drivers. They pay cash to the vandals. They don't transfer money. And they use unregistered SIM cards, which the present registration of NIN is trying to address. Yes. So, but we are gradually getting closer and closer to them, because if we get them, they are the ones that will now link us to those plants. You know, when you are preparing a case, you have to make sure that you firm up all the loose ends in order to make sure that by the time you go to court, they don't get away.
Well, Mr. Bapa, thank you very much. I mean, I still want to stay with you. Let's get this point very clear. Dealing in scrap metal on its own is not illegal.
Yes.
Because you see, I mean, when you look at the carcass of an abandoned vehicle, it's scrap metal on its own. There are all kinds of household items that we have, and there are collectors of these items. They take them, and then once in a while you'll see trucks conveying the scrap metal to a smelting plant where they are, of course, they're recycled for other purposes. But it is the issue of rail tracks. I mean, a rail track is not, that is already a molded metal. It's not disused, or like a manhole cover that you would find. What do we know about the association, for instance, of scrap metal dealers? Because they are I imagine on the face of it, they are the ones who will be the first off-takers before they now take them to the recycling plants. And then to the recycling plants are their supervisors, who would, or rather inspectors, who would come from time to time just to be sure that, look, the items you seek to smelt are not some of the items that we are looking for. What's your finding in this regard?
Yes, what we have discovered is there are some recyclers that are doing genuine business. Yes, you know, and we cannot, it's part of the industrial development, and we cannot put all of them in the same basket. You know, but there's one particular attraction about these rail tracks. You know, scrap is sold based on tonnage and the nature of the steel. You know, and the heaviest steel you can get as scrap is rail track at the moment, except if we are going to scrap ships and other things. But at the moment on land, it is rail tracks. You know, so instead, what they are just trying to accelerate the process. Instead of just carrying a huge load of dismantled old vehicles and other things, you can just get a few rail tracks and you have the equivalent of a trailer.
In terms of tonnage?
Yes. You know, so it is more profitable to them. And you can get quick money for that, rather than carrying a whole truckload of pans and plates. So that is the attraction. So what they normally do at the moment is they use all these other discarded pieces of metal to cover these things. In the course of our investigations, we found out that there are some very unscrupulous operators of these recycling plants who have an understanding with these scrap dealers to even bring the items at late hours, because they know that it is illegal to smelt rail tracks.
But I think from what you're saying, you really have an understanding of
Yes.
the operational methodology of the elements that are involved in this. But I'm still concerned about the possibility of manning the tracks, because it's a network. It's right. So that's why I asked about your capacity in terms of manning them, in terms of protecting them. How is it possible? Now you also talked about technology. Do you have that technological capacity, you know, to use drones or what have you to man the vast network of railway tracks in Nigeria?
Yes, you see, the NRC itself has an internal system of monitoring the tracks. That is how most of the accidents and derailments are being avoided up to now. And this internal monitoring system is, you know, they have what they call gangers. These gangers are recruited from the communities on the rail corridor. So their job is to go out every morning, and they are assigned sections of track to check whether there is any damage or whether there is any tampering, and report. You understand? So all this form part of the network.
Are the gangers paid?
The gangers are
gangers could be part of the problem.
They are employees of the Nigerian Railway Corporation. But the unfortunate thing is that in the recent past, we've discovered that some of these people, you know, were involved in this.
Exactly, that's what I was
you know, but you know, I understand management is is addressing the matter. The management of the NRC is addressing
No,
this matter.
but Kyria, I mean, there is no presumption that all gangers are necessarily involved in this. Gangers are teams that work on the maintenance of sections of rail tracks. You say from kilometer 1 to kilometer 20. That's your scope of coverage. And kilometer 20 to 40 is your next. These are gangers. You will be sure that you maintain it so that if there are any issues along that line, you report back. But I think the point you are, sorry, please go ahead.
Any security issues also, like tampering with the line, are supposed to be part of their reports. You know, and apart from that, the NRC have this, what they call rail cars and rail buses, which go up and down the track, you know, before the trains actually come. They are part of the maintenance system, but they can also be used as part of the security monitoring system. You know, most of this problem that we are encountering now with the narrow gauge line, specifically, before the recent incident in some few kilometers from Itakpe on the standard gauge line, most of the problem had to do with the fact that, you know, there's disinformation in the general public, and it is deliberate by these vandals. They tell the local people that government is already building new tracks. These are will no longer be needed. They are no longer useful. You know, so this is contributing to the problem we're having. So, but if these rail cars and rail buses, if we have them running on these tracks that are currently not being operated, and these are the ones that are mostly vandalized, the tracks that are not currently being operated. If we can have those rail buses running up and down with security personnel, we can cover vast sections. We have teams that are in 774 local governments of the Federation.
Okay.
The rail tracks are only in 29 states of the 36 states of the federal capital at the moment. So we have that coverage. We have the support of the internal monitoring system of the railway itself.
But that's fine. I want to pause you and bring in again Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali in our Kaduna Network Center. On the face of it, this looks like a fairly easy problem to tackle. That's to say, well, listening to Mr. Bapa here, he has indicated what the chain is. You have the vandals who actually go to rip out the tracks, and of course the tracks are attractive because of the gauge. That's the tonnage that it will come. But then there are off-takers. You have scrap metal dealers, and then you have the smelting plants, where the items are quickly smelted, and then they make their money. I say that on the face of it, it looks fairly easy to trace and track. Could there be a problem that perhaps civil defense is taking on this assignment alone, since its major mandate is protection of critical infrastructure? Couldn't we have other security agencies also pitch into this, so that, you know, the more eyes and the more ears and the more hands you have on the deck, this problem can be arrested, and then the deterrent effect that you also spoke about earlier can be taught very swiftly, and then everybody knows that, look, this is bad business.
Thank you very much. The civil defense is not alone in this business, because the Nigerian police also has the railway command. So what needs be is there should be some sort of interagency collaboration between the Nigerian police and the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps with a view to harnessing their efforts in order to nip in the bud the current vandalization going on the rail tracks. And as Bapa rightly said, the issue of monitoring, he talked about their capacity, but we need to understand that some of the rail tracks run through bushes or some thick forest. I'm not sure they have the capacity to really be in some of those places, both in the day and at night. So this brings in the need for the Nigerian Railway Corporation, in conjunction with the Civil Defense and the Nigerian Police Railway Command, to put heads together and see the viability of having drones that can be manning some of those areas that cannot become covered by humans. If this is done, I think we'll be able to achieve some degree of success in thoroughly manning and monitoring what is going on as regards the tracks, particularly in the bushes or inside the forest that we cannot really reach. If this is done, I think we'll have some degree of success, because some of these vandals, if they know you are only concentrating your manpower within the urban centers or within the local governments where people are, they can decide to move into the bush and do what they know best how to do without being traced. So this is where the need for drones comes in. And we also have, in the past, there are these people whose work was monitoring the track. As Mr. Kingsley rightly said, people are given portions between 1 to 10 or 20 kilometers. It is his own business to be manning that daily, looking at it, not only manning, also tying and untying knots and bolts from time to time. And whenever there is anything faulty that is beyond his own ability to rectify, he reports to the headquarters for proper things to be done. But I'm not sure some of these people exist today. If they do, they are no more in the employment of the Nigerian Railway Corporation. So the Nigerian Railway Corporation need to reject itself. They need more hands, and they also need training and retraining in order for us to live up to expectations. This, I think, is what needs to be done, and immediately too, because the rail system is a big panacea to the problems of road transportation. And we must also not be unmindful of the fact that there are saboteurs, because people know for sure that if rail transportation becomes a true reality, as it used to be in the 60s, certainly nobody will bother himself going to Kano, Abuja, or Lagos by road. He goes by train. It is more comfortable and safer. So we have to look at what are the acts of sabotage being done or perpetrated and encouraged or even funded by owners of road transport workers, the big trucks, and so on. So we have to look at all these, and I think this will be a good thing for the civil defense to start doing. Let them put an ear to the ground and see how and why, or what is what are owners of big lorries doing with a view to sabotaging the effectiveness of our newborn railway transport system. That, I think, is very important.
I guess a new dimension to this conversation, you know, because of this aspect of sabotage he brought in.
Well, I think that, Kieran, I understand what Muhammad Ali is saying, but we do not have any evidence to remotely suggest that maybe truck owners or truck drivers are sabotaging. Although the point must be made that in the past, where the late Dr. Samuel Ogbemudia was military governor of the old Midwest, was sole administrator of the Nigerian railways. He granted an interview, I think after he left office, when he was trying to fix the railways, that truck owners came to him and said, congratulations, you are doing a very good job. But we have taken out loans to purchase our trucks. So how do we repay if your railways are working?
Okay, and
that was the Bermuda at the time.
That's
but
exactly
in this particular instance, no, we cannot allege that. Yes. So,
yeah, you see, that is why what Mr. Muhammad Ali said, you know, cannot be just waved away like that, because there is a possibility of what he said. Nobody's sure, actually. It's just like sometime in the past when we were having issue of power in this country. Some persons suggesting that perhaps the importers of gen sets, we're also trying to sabotage the system to ensure that we don't have steady power supply so that they can be in business. All right. So now we have been joined by the Managing Director, Nigeria Railway Corporation, Mr. Fidel Okiria. Mr. Okiria, it's good to have you join us at this point in this edition of Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Yes, sir.
It's good. We are discussing vandalization, which doesn't excite me so much.
I understand that you are so worried, after working so hard, to bring back rail lines in Nigeria, that some elements are into vandalism of the rail track. So how has it been?
It's been quite disturbing and frustrating, because by the time we came back from COVID, most of the tracks were labeled, and people took opportunity of people not coming to work. Even now that people had come to work, it's still a battle. About, I think last month, there was even up to the point of the security men within the Abuja, they sent a gun with vandals. At least fortunately for us, I think 2 people were arrested, and one of them happened to be a staff of the people that are supposed to be guiding our facilities. So it's not, it's just out of, whether I don't want to say ignorance, I think it's wickedness. The last week I talked about drone. I'm an engineer, I'm a scientist. People have been bringing the ideas, drones, this, okay, you bring your cost of running a drone to protect the track. And sometimes I ask the question, if you say drone is effective, how come kidnappers, you say enter the bush, have not been, is it that they see it and they don't arrest them? So right now we are thinking about maybe having a satellite watch, and anytime you touch the track, you have an alarm, but it comes at a cost, which maybe would have extended the track to other localities. In our workshop, for instance, in Lagos, we installed a camera. At the time, they said the one, that is the wireless one, the wire one, they cut it. By the time you are tracking the cable, by the time you traced it, they have removed the camera. That is to see how dubious people are. Then it's okay, put wireless. You put wireless, they will still go and remove them. People are coming with ideas of how to protect track. The last one we have said they will provide a camera in every 500 meters. That's okay. Lagos to Kano on the narrow gauge is over 1,000. And you are talking at every 500 meters. You are talking about 2,000. How do you monitor 2,000 cameras? So would the drone go to be in one location, or is going to be, how many drones are you deploying? So what I'm saying though this is that it has to come from my heart to be patriotic. At every, we will call what we call 1 + 1 + 8. It's true we don't meet up with 1 + 1 + 8, but we are doing the minimum of 1 + 1 + 4. That means at every 6 kilometers, there are what we call a ganga, some ganga, and 4-length men who walk. You're like those days when you have the road menders, remember? When you have road menders that clear the bush.
WD.
So we have such a team, and it's still in existence, no matter how technology has come. But are those people you have tried to employ, are they patrolling now? Most of the people arrested, some are our staff. And how do you explain that? So it is just to let us try and be patriotic. I know these things is going to benefit at least us and our children, because when you destroy it, it's going to affect everyone, those yet unborn, because to make it operate, you have to replace them, and it comes at a cost. So we have been talking about trying to, not to when we hold our security meeting, not to open it up. Now that it has become open, because those who don't have idea that they can go to the track and remove rail will now start nursing the idea to say, okay, they say social location, they remove rail and they sold it. Let's try. That's why we have been trying to be play it down. And I think both the civil defense and Nigerian police have close to 200 people in detention and facing different cases. And the National Assembly has been trying to say amend the law. But as far as I'm concerned, the law that says don't vandalize government property, they didn't limit it to NEPA, they didn't limit it to pipeline, I believe has taken care of that. So, but how do we prosecute? They were able to arrest a company in Jos by a Chinese company, and they went to court. They fined them 200,000. They found the rail, new rail, 2013 sleepers in their premises.
They were just fined 200,000 naira?
200,000. But the lawyer is not thinking, they have found them guilty, they should not, the allied law says they can go back to court and ask to see the place. So that's where we are. So not until...
Are the Chinese, are they legal residents in Nigeria or they have been deported immediately?
He's in position to know that, but they have to follow the law as well to ensure that...
you bring in the immigration service. These are criminal elements. You kick them out.
Mr. Okay, it doesn't appear that you are really handicapped in this matter, from all indications, because the techniques being applied by these elements, will make it easy for them to remove those tracks. No, could it be possible for the people that lead the tracks to make it extremely difficult for one to, detach those or lose those boats?
Let's say, for instance, the one that broke the camel's back, they have vandalized the Takbe between Adaibo, between Takbe and Jakuta, which is standard gauge line, with concrete slippers. You can't move concrete slippers easily. It's heavy. With a continuous weather track. It's not the one that you have a junction where you use the fish plate to join at every maybe 30 meters you join. This is continuous. From Wari to Itabe, it's continuous. They have to go into the pain of cutting them so that they're able to remove. Luckily, the money inspection, those people on that section were able to, they did their job that morning and they detected it. Otherwise, it could have been a different thing we'll be talking about, because it will lead to a serious accident. Like what we have in Kaduna 2 weeks ago. We are still trying to recover from it. In Kaduna City, where they removed the clips and our train carrying pipe capsized. And even the crane coming to rescue also capsized. So it's not just, it's very frustrating, and that's within the city, Kaduna town. So
I just wonder, Engineer Okiria, look, from what you are describing now, somebody would need an iron cutter or a diamond cutter, as it is said. And these are noisy equipment.
And they use welding torch. They use this normal acetylene torch. That's what they use to cut it.
Okay, so there's less noise from those ones.
Less noise from it.
Yes. It's not what you can't. A rail steel is very. This thing is high, and you can't cut it within 5 or 10 minutes.
That's what I'm saying. There will be noise. People will be hearing noise.
Let me tell you. Yes.
It's like in those days when you're having all these illegal lumberjacks who are cutting the timber in the forest. You can't take a motor saw and the motor saw is working. You will hear the noise, even from several kilometers.
Let me give you another scenario.
Yes.
He knows. I don't want to hold anything back because it's an opportunity to say it all. In Makurdi, there was a story. Civil defense arrested, police is part, and eventually soldier arrested, both civil defense, this vandalizer, and police. By the time I was following up with the brigadier, I said, my brother, even the soldier who said they arrested them are also involved. Are you getting me?
It happened in Enugu as well some time ago when a policeman was
in Enugu, the railway police arrested the township police. A week later, the township police arrested the railway police. So that's why I say I want to be as open How will somebody go and find somebody who stole vandal that in our books is described as felony, 200,000? You say, please go ahead and continue. Sometimes they arrest and they go to court. It's frustrating. And they say 20 naira. They say the person to pay 20 naira. Especially in the north and middle belt. What do you call that? They are, the act does. That is what it permits them to do. So we have lost police in Port Harcourt due to gun attack. We are vigilante. We hired vigilante at the time. We lost one from Akwa Ibom. He so rest in peace. And the art of the vigilante to have been killed is very, very, very serious. And a place in, I think, around Umuahia, where they arrested them and kept them, people went there and attacked the police station, upon the police station. So it's not, I think, it's not just as we see it. I don't believe there are, what do you call it? The people we are facing is those so-called industry who say they are melting iron scrap. So it's not, because they cut and lift. It's not, I believe we have gotten to a stage that we say we can partner with the road, because they know that their vehicle will last longer, because we don't take to the doorstep. Like what we do in Lagos now, you see even road owners coming to us, because before they enter the port, it's a problem. So they use our facility to move out from the port and take from there to their respective places. So I'm thinking, praying that we should change our minds, let everybody be the real keeper. And that's, we have made advert sometime. We have only one person that has gotten permission to be given race scrap, car industry in Ilori. And any other person you see, and the man has gone as far as labeling his trailers so that you know whether he's stealing scrap. And we deliberately did not want to sell scrap to multiple people.
Okay,
so, but these people
you know
go
what?
to the
Explain, because before you came with the civil defense, you were raising the issue of legitimate scrap, metal scrap dealership. Yeah. We see them all times. You see them in trucks or articulated vehicles, as they are called. The Nigerian Railway Corporation also has scrap, which it sells. Yeah. Okay, and in this case, just explain the process. Who is the bona fide dealer in railway scraps, and how do you identify one that is apparently not bona fide?
It's okay. In rail, before we scrap, we call what we call a board of survey. You survey it. At a time, it's made up of the DSS, the military, the police, railway staff, and the ministry. So when they identify, you quantify it, and they put a professional still who value the scrap to put a cost. Then we now advertise, follow the normal, the way you follow procurement trying to acquire, the same way you follow to dispose. So at the last time we did that was 2015, 2016, we advertised, but the process ended in, I think, 2016. And you should be a steel industry. It's one of the criteria. And you are not expected to export. So the first thing, the due diligence has assured the person bidding have a steel company, no agent, that is to limit the people. And that's why I said the car industry won, and we still have about, I think, either 1,000 tons left for me to lift. Because it's not for the real scrap, because some of them are in far bush where you don't have access to, but you have to go and find a way to cut and move. So we have only one company as of today. The security people know it, because anytime we send out a document, we also ensure they have it. So, and I think the company is based in Ilorin, and the man, I think, is one of the patriotic Nigerians, because sometimes he helps us to report issues because it's affecting his able to lift. So, and there is no scrap that will be on, still on the track. That can never be scrap. When you have a rare item still on the track, scrap are those that have been removed, condemned, and packed in a place. I'm telling Nigerians that today we have only one company, Calm Industry, with their melting point between Offa and Ilorin, and Tati another one at
Shagamu.
Shagamu. That was any other person. So that's why when they raided the company in Jos, and they have a branch in, is it Port Harcourt or Aba?
Yes.
And we were happy. And they went to court, and they just say, hey, pay 200,000.
Yeah, in that case, I'm even wondering why, because you told us that tampering with those items is 21 years.
Imprisonment.
Removing it is also 21 years and all that. So how could now a company who was found, smelting,
Sorry, sir. Let me stress. If you cross the track where you are not supposed to cross, it's even 21 years. Crossing. Like you can't cross the express. The same thing. It's just for us to implement the law. And the punishment stops.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We take a short break now. When we return, the conversation continues. Do stay with us, please.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
My name is Nancy Oyedia Orom. I'm AIT correspondent. I've been covering the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 the last 1 year. I just took the jab, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and it was seamless. And I was opportune to take these vaccines with the SGF, the ministers. So I want to use this medium as a journalist for someone who has experienced COVID in the last 1 year. I want to implore media houses, broadcast industries. Let's join hands together to propagate the good information out there for people to believe in these vaccines. That's the only way we can have health immunity and also achieve the projection and target of Nigeria come 2022. Well, I must implore all Nigerians to go out there, register on the Primary Healthcare Development Agency website. These vaccines are free for all Nigerians. Go to the website, register. It is free for you and I.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Life can be very eventful. We curiously expect things to happen, even when we don't know what. Our human nature makes us like and repost lots of information. Some are unverified, inciting anger and hate. Sometimes innocently, other times the urge to break it first. This, in most cases, has caused destruction in many nations.
right, you're welcome back here. Still Good Morning Nigeria, and we have all our three guests here with us discussing the vandalism of rail tracks. Managing Director of Nigerian Railway Corporation, Engineer Fide Tuhiria, and then the Commandant of Railway Command of the Civil Defense, Papa, is also here. Mohammed Ali, Security Consultant, is in our Kaduna Network Center. I know Civil Defense, you've been itching to respond to the number of issues that have been raised by the other guests.
Yes, actually, I just wanted to speak on the issue of cooperation and synergy with other security agencies. Actually, we've been enjoying very good synergy, especially with the military, because the military have a network of checkpoints, operations all over the country. And because of that, they have been able to intercept several of these vandalized products that are on the road. And they have been handing them over to us for prosecution. We've been having this in particularly the most worrisome states of Nasarawa, Benue, and Kaduna. But we still have these incidents too in Enugu, in Rivers State, and I think we've had an incident in Delta, and also we've made an arrest even in the FCT here of a truck that was moving on the road.
You know, we're discussing the dimension is worrisome, no question about that. From what Engineer Fide Tuhiria has been talking about, I mean, you look at the persons who are arrested on the one hand, and look at those who are counter-arrested, and those who are subsequently arrested, they're all the same point. I was just wondering, for the off-takers, because, excuse me, if the off-takers reject what you have vandalized and brought to them, then, of course, at some point you get discouraged and there's no market for this. Yeah. Is it possible, I'm not in the security business, but is it possible to have sting operations? Is it possible to have infiltration? Because if there is suspicion as to the smelting plants or scrap yards where these things are there, then you get your people to be employed there, and then to be whistleblowers, or compromise a couple of them, and then get them to be the squealers, so that when these items arrive, then you are tipped off, and then you have the evidence there, red-handed. And when they pay a heavy penalty, I'm sure that will be the last time, when the trucks are coming, say, be sure that there's no railway item inside, or if there is, take it back, we are not buying. So is it difficult to have these sting operations or to have infiltration?
Yes, sir. We are doing a lot of things. I just don't want to tip our hand, so that we don't want to drive these criminal elements on the ground. We want to keep some of the details of what we want to do.
That's fine.
Yes, sir. So because if we make public all the methods we are planning to employ, they can also come up with ways of countering them. So we don't want to actually drive the activity on the ground, where it will be more difficult to detect and apprehend people.
Okay, but let ask Engineer Okiria this question. You know, it's been established that some of your staff are involved in this. You know, what are you doing internally, you know, to scrutinize and, of course, find out some of these unscrupulous elements among you who are directly involved in this, especially those who are field officers?
You see, sometimes friends tell me that government work mysteriously. You catch a thief, you say, okay, your services are no longer required. It goes to court. We'll be having a series of court cases. So recently, we've decided when they say staff is involved, just prosecute him as you prosecute whether staff or non-staff. Because sometimes you say administrative, it doesn't work. So we've personally, we had a meeting and I told them, any person that have gone to vandalized track cannot be a staff. Just pretend there is no staff. Treat him as you would treat non-staff. So as the MD, as a person, that's what I've left for them. Don't come to me, say, administratively. So you have caught a thief, and you have caught a vandal, follow the law, but what we can do at that time is, okay, put him on suspension without pay, which the law allows. That's what we'll be doing. So because by the time you say you terminate, we have, after 5-20 years, they'll come back and say they defeated the government. You have to start paying. So I just say follow, prosecute, and make sure you get judgment. So we have decided to underplay the administrative process in that a criminal is a criminal, whether a worker or not. So I would say it's painful, because instead of spending resources, they will tell you, both police and this thing, the resources we are using to drive this thing it's not easy, because you have to go and tow the trailer, you have to protect the material vandalized so that they don't come back, and it's not free. And to go to court, to hire a lawyer, it's not. And so such resources would have been used to better, if not even the system, even the people working there. So
what is the replacement cost of these iron slippers that have been removed, and the plates and bolts and nuts? I mean, we have an idea. Is it stretching your budget now?
You see, it's stretching. It's not direct. It's stretching in the sense that what we have kept to use, either in extending or maintaining when it's due, is what we deploy, because we can now afford to stop operation. In Abuja, Kaduna, for instance, we have changed close to 100,000 clips.
Huh?
100, about 100,000 clips. You know, the clips is the one that hold the rail.
Yes.
To the
100,000 in number?
Yes. Right now, I think we owe the Chinese, because what they brought for us has been exhausted, replacing them. Do you understand? And we have gone further to say any further construction, I should at least have what we call vandal-proof clips. You can still vandal, but it will take you, actually, you have to work hard to remove them. So if by the time we start Ibadan to Kano, we are going to design, and we have also cross-check and see how possible is it to use them. So we'll be going to implement as a vandal-proof clip on those sections, and we'll try replacing them. It comes at a cost. The clip you put ordinarily is not the same cost as for the vandal-proof clip. You have to go extra mile to have them.
Okay, so, thank you. Let's take some tweets that have just come in. From Chris Simeon, it's very pathetic. Other countries are trying to develop their rails by bringing new technology, but in Nigeria, unscrupulous elements are vandalizing them.
Mike Ayakwa, well, it says vandalization, vandalization, vandalization everywhere. Where are we heading to? Are we not human anymore? Where is the pride of nationhood? Where is patriotism? The rate of vandalism of public assets in recent times leaves much to be desired.
Festus Akimboewa, a dedicated security team for protecting our rail lines, the use of CCTV, installing new ways of securing the rail lines, using forensic marking agents on the rail lines, and heavy punishment for anyone purchasing stolen rail lines may deter criminals from vandalizing the rail lines.
Ibrahim Abdusalam Bello says, when people are short of patriotism, this is one of the effects. We should not rest the responsibility on the shoulders of the law enforcement agencies only. Rail communities should be involved in protecting it. They know those who trespass.
Law Alpha C, Nigerians have turned against Nigeria. As a nation state, there is no moral justification for the vandalization of rail lines, which have gulped billions to put in place and which have improved the economy by all perspectives.
Usman Banu Kantu, at the beginning, we lacked the desired orientation, discipline, and law and order not enshrined in our conduct and behavior, faithless. Government property is seen as booty, and unless citizens are reoriented, looting and vandalism of government property will continue to be the order of the day.
Mutana Farouk says there is a close observation that some people who engage in the vandalism of the public facilities are not thieves, but saboteurs who are extremely angry with the government's anti-people policies. Meanwhile, security personnel can do less as NOA can do more to correct this trend. But I want to tell him that constructing rail lines cannot be anti-people policy anyway.
That's right. Now, this is coming from Izirim Promise. The diabolical trend of vandalism and other criminal acts can be brought to an end through good governance and equality and creation of employment and enabling environment for businesses to strive.
We told us Sunday, fix security situation in the country, tackle unemployment, and preach patriotism with sincerity.
Okay, those are the tweets that we can accommodate. We're actually really pressed for time. But Mohammed Ali, if we can get your closing thoughts on this. It may very well be just perhaps a few instances where law enforcement agents themselves have been arrested, whether policemen, civil defense, or the military. But what can be done to enhance better security from the law enforcement agents and then dealing with those who are insider collaborators?
The best that can be done is to strengthen our criminal justice system. Until that is done, we're not going to get it right. The MD just said a team of Chinese were arrested after having vandalized, removed parts of the rail track, but they were only fined 200,000. Whereas Abbas told us, and the whole world heard him, that removing, vandalizing, or destroying carries, each of these offenses carries a sentence of 21 years. Why is that not matter to the Chinese? Or is Nigeria an appendage of China? How many Nigerians are wasting away in China prisons? Why shouldn't these Chinese men be sent to prison? And whether civil defense, police, or the military are caught in this act, regardless of whatever profession they profess, since they have disgraced themselves, so be it. Let the law take its course on them, so that will serve as a deterrent and a lesson to everybody. But while we keep pretending, giving preferential punishments to people maybe because of their class or profession, then I think we are not serious, and these things will never end.
Indeed, gentlemen, we have come to the end of this edition of Good Morning Nigeria, and I'd like to thank the Managing Director, Nigeria Railway Corporation, Mr. Engineer Fidet Okiria. Thank you so much, sir, for finding time to be part of the program.
Come born again and be righteous.
All right,
so
Mr. Abbas Baba, the Commandant, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Railway Command. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having
All
me.
right, and of course, from our Kaduna Network Center, Mr. Mohammed Ali, a security expert. We appreciate your contribution this morning to our show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so that's it for Good Morning Nigeria today. We are back tomorrow same time at 7 o'clock.